Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business. Write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Cesar.
Learn from the experts. Think outside the box. Have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
Well, hello everybody once again and welcome. I'm Cesar, your host, and this is your weekly reminder that your career matters more than your job and that your life is a project and you are the manager. Whether you work for a company or for yourself, your job stability is really just your ability to land your next gig. So join me in practicing intentional, planned, and value-adding relevance, starting right now. And today on this 111th, 111 episode of the Project Management for the Masses podcast, we were going to talk about taking criticism gracefully. Traci, how are you? You suck, you know.
Yeah. Which is really funny that you said that, because a friend of mine just sent me a book he wrote, and it's "You Suck." Something about how to not tell your team that they suck all the time. Uh-huh. So, yeah. So why do I suck now?
I don't know. Let's talk about that. How do you?
Yeah.
So how do you? Yeah. How do you handle that? I mean, it's
you might make me cry now.
But you do it really well. So you're terrible in a good way. If that makes any sense.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something, taking criticism personally, this is one of those topics that, when I did my webinar, I asked people, hey, what are some of the challenges that you have? And this ranked right up there near the top. Mm-hmm. So, what happens when you hear that people are telling you that they suck? Because, I think it impacts everybody at some point in their life, right?
Right. See, I work in a company that is fully remote, right? Everybody's working from home or from the beach or wherever they want to work from. And so we try to foster like a culture of feedback. And this is something, even though I think we as a company, we kind of do it relatively well because the nature of how we work, and we need that, right? It's still difficult. It's still difficult to give critical feedback, and it's difficult to receive it. And I'm using, I'm talking about critical feedback, which is, I think, assumes a lot of good intention and, hey, I want to bring this up with someone, that they could have done better here and there. But a lot of times that's not how criticism comes, right? A lot of times it doesn't feel like it comes from a good place.
Yeah. Well, you just think about, you've grown up with it all your life, and a lot of times, the teachers, they're going to grade you. Your parents are going to say, oh, you're such a good girl or good boy. Well, in my case, a bad girl, like quit pulling your sister's hair and stuff like that, right? And so you're constantly being judged and graded and criticized, basically. And they judge on how smart you are, how pretty or cute you are, or handsome, I guess, for a guy, or how tall or short. And so what ends up happening is you start to, I think, from a pretty young age, use this criticism to find your own self-worth. Mm-hmm. And it's just someone's opinion. So you can't help but learn to take criticism personally, because, well, when you're young, you don't really know any better, and it is personal.
Yeah. Sound like the dude that's just your opinion, man. It's just your opinion, man. But and I was thinking about this, and as I watch my kids, right, and then you talked about being graded at school or marked, like we say here in Canada. I think we as humans, what our brains do is to categorize things into folders, right? So this person is, so we categorize people as, smart or not smart, intelligent or not intelligent, pretty, not pretty. Even, it's subconscious. I think we constantly doing that, and I see it in my kids, every time we go to a restaurant and we I have to take the 4-year-old to the bathroom. I'm like, don't touch anything. Don't touch the potty, right? So we came back home, and she just gave me this whole thing that she came up with. That there are some potties that we can touch, and other potties that we do not touch. So potties in the restaurant we do not touch. Potties at home we can touch. Potties at somebody's house sometimes we can touch. So she, I'm just using that as an example of how even at that age we're okay, this is how we do things. This is not how we not do things.
Right.
This is one kind of person. This is another kind of person. And I think a lot of this, the issue that we have with taking criticism is that in our minds we're fitting in a certain category, but that's not how people are seeing us. They're putting us in another bucket. And when they tell us that, we're like, no, I'm in bucket number A. Number A? That's not a number. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
so there's this disconnect between how you think of yourself and how other people think of you.
Yes. Yeah, because I do not want to be a potty toucher. Especially a restaurant potty toucher. That, oh my gosh, that would make me a bad girl.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I couldn't even deal with that. Yeah.
I don't know how we went down in this potty.
Did we get here? Yeah. Yes. So what can we do about it? Because I think our whole lives we've been trained to take criticism personally. And find our worth in how other people judge us.
Right. Well, before we start on that, is there a way to actually, because I think we're going to talk about how we should not let that affect us or in a negative way. Is there a way to actually create some narrative in your mind as a professional or as a person in which criticism plays a positive role?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. And I think as we, as we talk about what to do about it, that's the big part of it, is to what are you doing with it? Because you can't stop it from happening.
Right.
Right. I mean, people are going to say what they're going to say, but what do you do once your brain receives it? How do you process it?
And a lot of times the criticism will be valid. I mean, maybe they tell us that we're messing up, and guess what? We're messing up. That's right. And without their bringing that to light, we would not know, and we would not be able to take action on it and get better. That's what I think. So, all right. So let's talk about ways that how we can deal with criticism, and in specifically, negative criticism, right? So, what would be one of the things that we should do, that we can do?
Well, one of the things is, stop worrying about what other people think.
Yeah.
I know that is it just comes off your lips so easily to say that, right? But then to actually put it into practice, that's the hard thing. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Eleanor Roosevelt, where she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission."
Yeah, that brings you as a player into this, right? So if you're feeling like crap, it's you played a part in this. You let them do that to you.
Yeah, absolutely, and no one, no one can do that. No, I mean, they can say, "Cesar, you are so ugly," or whatever, right? And you can choose to internalize that and give them permission to make you feel bad, or you can choose not to give them permission and just to take that as any other opinion in the world that somebody throws out there, Yeah. So, because there's tons of opinions. I mean, just open up social media, you'll find a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Don't read the comments.
Exactly. Right. But you get to choose, because the truth is, sadly, not everyone's going to like you.
Yeah.
Do you have people? I have people that don't like me.
Yeah. I'm sure there's people who don't like me either.
Well, they're stupid, but no.
We don't like them.
We don't like, that's just our opinion of them, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everyone's not going to like you.
Yeah, and that is a fact. Even if you think about the most likable person out there, I don't know who that be. Who would that be?
Well, some people thought Billy Graham was really likable, right? He just passed away recently, so
right. But I'm sure that a lot of people didn't like him. Especially people who lost. Let's say another pastor who had a full church, and then he started preaching, and they all left to go see him. And wow, this Billy Graham guy, it's full of crap, probably. So yeah, I'm sure Gandhi. There was some cousin twice removed who thought he was, not good or something.
Yeah, Oprah. We already know there's people who don't like Oprah because
there's a lot of people who don't like Oprah.
Nothing against Oprah. I have nothing against her, but yeah.
Right.
There's anybody. You're going to have people who like you and who don't like you.
Yeah. But one thing you can say about Oprah is that she can take criticism well, because even though a lot of people don't like her, she keeps on doing what she wants to do and being successful. Yeah,
because she's stopped worrying about what other people think. Mm-hmm. And she just tries to generate the value and create the value that she feels she should create in the world.
Yeah.
She's done a pretty good job of it too, I guess.
Right. And if you're, she's always known for giving cars to people who don't like her. So.
Right. Yes.
That's another approach we can take if you can afford it. Oh, you don't like me? Here's your Bentley. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's something we might not want to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the other thing is that we don't control the thoughts of others, do we? Like, even if there's no reason for somebody to not like you, in the end, that they can still choose not to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, this reminds me of that book, The Four Agreements. Have you read that?
No.
By Don Miguel Ruiz. It's pretty popular, whatever. But agreement number 2 is don't take anything personally. And he says, whatever happens around you, don't take it personally. He says, if I see you on the street and say, hey, you're stupid without knowing you, it's not about you. It's about me. He says, if you take it personally, then perhaps you believe you're stupid. Maybe you think to yourself, well, how does he know? Is he clairvoyant? Or can everybody see how stupid I am? Nothing other people do is because of you. It's because of them. And I love that he says that because it's so true. Mm-hmm. They made a choice and you can choose. Especially if somebody you don't even know says, hey, you're stupid.
Yeah.
Why would you place value there?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And, when talking about work, this is something good to keep in mind because think about yourself at work, right? There are a number of things about work that you like. There are a number of things about work that you don't like. There are things you want to do in a year or two that you're thinking about, like career progression and things like that. And so you have this story of work in your brain, right? This is how reality is for you. But guess what? Everybody else has their own little story of what's going on, right? And in their story, you may be neutral, or you may be a friend, or you may be in their way, So when they come out and are mean to you or tell you you're stupid or whatever, it may have most likely has nothing to do with you or what you're doing. It's just the way you fit in their narrative right now, right? Which is completely out of your control, and really, it says nothing about you. It's all about them. So this is so right.
Yeah, and we tend to worry about the higher ups when we have a job, mm-hmm. and again, how they treat you usually has little to do with you, depending on how, especially if they're higher up, and they don't even know you, right?
Yeah.
So there's two different situations. Maybe they had a great evening, right? And they're seeing you in the morning. They got a good night's sleep. Maybe they just won the lottery. I don't know, right? And things are just wonderful for them, and they're feeling great. Well, how do you think they're going to treat you? Probably pretty well. Mm-hmm. But now that very same person, this time they got a bad night's sleep, right? Their dog pooped in their shoes, their daughter touched the restaurant toilet. Maybe they got into a car accident on the way to work. Just all kinds of stuff can happen, and they're not in such a good mood. Now, how are they going to treat you? And again, it has nothing to do with you, but you worry about what they think. So now you're letting their bad misfortune impact you, and it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. I think this is something, because as I coach people on my team, I realize that I think I have a natural tendency to kind of care less what other people think, but it's not the case for a lot of people, I think getting over this is probably one of the most important things you can do in your life. As I see sometimes, as I talk to people and see what bothers them, a lot of it is related to this, a spot they had with someone, or how someone brought up this, Achilles heel of an issue that they have, and they know where buttons to push, all these, like these things that we like to say. And that really affects your quality of life, right? If you can develop a way to disconnect from that and actually, focus on yourself, focus on doing what's right, and doing it well, then what other people think is, it's, who cares? It doesn't really mean anything, right? Especially if you're not reporting to them. Like, who cares what they think? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's important to be able to, take some feedback and take the constructive pieces of constructive criticism and, construct something with it, and then just ignore the rest, because it's not worth it. Not worth it to put yourself down and to take that criticism, the negative stuff, and internalize it.
Right. Or even if it's negative, and as I said, and it's valid, right? Use that as okay, well, yep, I understand I have this issue, and here is somebody else finding out, and I need to do something about this, And again, it's not about you; it's about them. They found it, they got bothered by it, and they brought it to light. But you know it, you knew it already. It's just a matter of, okay, what are you gonna do with it? Are you just gonna turn around and hate this person in secret, or which really doesn't help anything, or do something about it?
Well, and that's where you're at choice, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you have that choice. And so another thing that people can do is just stop giving that power away, because it's one of my favorite things to teach people is you're in control of how you think and how you process all of the data that the world is giving you. And so I think we talked about this in episode 105 about being able just to calm yourself down and to tell yourself that you're not giving anybody else permission to make you feel inferior or anything else to make you feel unhappy or discouraged. Don't give people the opportunity to do that, the permission to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is it that you're going to shift to? What you'll hear it. You can't help but hear it or recognize it or sense it or see it or whatever it happens to be. So how are you going to shift? And that's up to you. That's a personal thing. What are you going to say? Some people will say a prayer, right? Mm-hmm. Some people have a precept or a mantra that they say. I just watched the movie last night, Wonder. Have you ever watched that movie?
No.
About the little boy. He has a facial deformity, and finally in 5th grade, his mom sends him off to school. And yeah, it's really, it's one of those feel good, I guess, kind of movies. Although some people cry during it as well. But it's really about that. I mean, here's a kid that people make fun of, call him a monster, and yet he really has to overcome a lot of that criticism and just be himself. And when he has all kinds of friends. So it's kind of fun a good story anyways. Nice.
So stop giving your power away.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you take, so let's say you did give your power away. So how do you take it back?
Oh, well, just the opposite. I mean, there's nothing. It's all inside of you, right? You already have the power. You have it. To take it back. It's a decision. Is basically all it comes down to. It's a decision. So, now
decision is a good word, because I was thinking about this last week. I was away for a leadership training last week, and I that wasn't part of the training. I read this in a book. Decisions don't take time.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So if you do not put that on your to-do list or on a calendar, because I need to decide what to do about whatever, this product launch or my wedding reception, because a decision is instantaneous. You can decide right now as you're listening to this podcast right now. Let's say you just had a bad meeting right before this, and somebody said something stupid, and it affected you. And now you're like fuming, and you're letting this person take control of your well-being. You can decide right now, as you're listening to my words, say, you know what? That is their problem. That's their narrative. And I'm not going to allow this person to dictate how I'm feeling. I'm not going to give the power of making me happy or sad to this individual. You can decide that right now. I'm going to give you 2 seconds right now for you to decide that.
Yeah, but they don't even need 2 seconds, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and a lot of that piece of it, right, comes down to what is it that you believe.
Right.
And so another way to overcome this criticism is to question what you believe, because a lot of people are probably listening to us in their car or something, right? And they're driving along, and somebody will cut them off, and then they believe that person shouldn't have cut them off, right? Mm-hmm. And so that person is a jackass or whatever. You're going to call them some kind of name, or just wave hi to them with one of your digits, something like that, right? And so, but that's your belief that they shouldn't have done that. And now it's causing your blood pressure to go up, right? It's got all kinds of cortisol's being released in your system that causes us to get fat. Just so many things happen, but it isn't them that caused that to happen. It's your belief that caused it to happen, that it shouldn't. So you end up shitting on everything, and that's not a good thing. Right. Yeah.
So question your beliefs, and these are all like numbered. So number 1, just a quick recap here before we get to the last 3 items here. So number 1 was to stop worrying about what other people think. Number 2 is to stop giving your power away. Number 3 is to question your beliefs.
Yes. Yeah. So like an example of that, right? If I'm walking down the street and I say hi to someone, they have to greet me back. I mean, that's my belief, is that's the respectful thing to do. So if they don't say hi back, then obviously they're being disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And they're disrespectful, it's because they think, well, I'm not worthy of respect. And if people think I'm not worthy of respect, well, then maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm worthless. And if these people think I'm worthless, then maybe I am. And in your thoughts, that's all in your head, right? That's all in my head, if that occurred to me. And it all came down to that belief that if I say hi to somebody, they should say hi to me back.
Right. And that is so true at work, especially if you're, let's say you're new at a company, or it's almost like when you're new at a company, it's almost like you're an immigrant in a way, right? You're coming into this foreign culture, and they do things a certain way, and it might not match what you think the way things should be done, right? So a good example is if somebody worked their whole life in an office with cubicles, and you can just yell somebody's name, they yell back at you, and you get, ask a question, they answer the question back, right? And then you work on a company that is maybe not 100% remote like mine, but you have people in different time zones, right? So, and you send them a message, hey, what should we do about this topic? And they don't answer right away because they're sleeping, they're in Croatia or whatever. All of a sudden, because you're so used to getting an answer right away, and now you're not getting it, you start to think that the person is disrespecting you or ignoring you when it's not the case. They don't
like you.
Or they don't like you, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example. So when you go into a new environment, and that's kind of an extreme example, but maybe you're in a company where people don't really like to make friends with their coworkers, right? Or they don't like sports, and you get there and you feel like, okay, nobody wants to talk to me. Well, because you're really an extrovert who likes baseball, and people here are introverts and they like video games. It's not about you. It's just that you're like in this different environment, right?
Yeah, you brought up something else, when you're going into, even if it's a new team and for the same company or something like that. When I remember early in my career when I was brand new to project management and somebody would offer to help me, and I would take that personally. I'd be like, "What, you think I'm stupid? I can't do a Gantt chart myself. I know what a Gantt chart is. You don't have." But really, they were just trying to be nice, right? They were just trying to, help me along. But it was my own insecurities that caused me to, think that they were calling me stupid. So then I'd get so upset. I'm like, great, now they think I'm stupid. And then somebody else would offer to help me and be like, great, now there's another person that thinks I'm stupid. But that isn't it at all. And it happens at home too. Yeah. I'll be, I don't know, trying to fix the toilet or something because I can touch. Yeah, you can touch it at home. And and then I'll get offered help. Hey, do you need? No, I got it. I'm not stupid. I can, right? But that's me. Yeah, that's me, right? They're just trying to help. So So questioning
your beliefs, and a good example, I think, also especially for project managers, because we. I'm PMP certified, right? So I learned about waterfall and all that kind of stuff. And then let's say I manage a project using that methodology, and I'm really comfortable with it, and it kind of works for me. And then somebody comes along and they're going to manage another project, and they say, well, you know what, we're going to try a more agile approach this time. That is very... you can't take that personally, like, oh, that person did not like how I handled the project last time. Mm-hmm. So they're changing things because of me, Another example is when you are a new parent, right? And you are choosing to do things a little bit differently than what your parents did. And then your parents see that as an insult. Right. What, you don't think what? Well, walking to school by yourself wasn't good enough, or things like that. So again, it's not about you; it's about them, right? Yeah. And
when you do feel it, personally, look at what you believe. Look at maybe some assumptions that you made that caused you to leap to that conclusion. Mm-hmm. Because it might not be real. Yeah.
It might not be real.
Might not be real.
So that was number 3, to question your beliefs. And now we're going to talk about number 4, which is to be too busy to care. What does that mean?
Well, I think that's kind of like what Oprah is, right? So people criticize her all the time, and she's just so focused on the value that she wants to create. And you can be too. You can be just so focused on what you're doing and what you're creating in the world that criticism is just some feedback. It's not failure. It's not final. And it's just the fuel that you use to push yourself forward and to grow and to be even better.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it's the equivalent of, hey, can you say that again? I couldn't hear you over my awesomeness. Right? Something about me being ugly? What?
Yeah, exactly. And just keep, and Cesar, you've been doing this for 111 episodes. And there are going to be people that say crap or just say, oh, that was wrong, or your shit was stupid, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it's just people like to criticize. They feel that makes them valuable or something. I don't know. And so you just have to be too busy.
Yeah.
That's why you started another podcast.
Right. And people I get a lot of positive feedback, but there's the negatives here and there. And I'm not going to lie, it sticks with you. Like I remember them. Like somebody once said, oh, it's too much. Something along the lines like the beginning of the podcast was just too much fluff, too much, get to the point right away. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I said, but, can I listen to your podcast and see how you do it? Oh, yeah, you don't have one.
Well, I don't know. It's really funny because, I was just listening to another podcast and the person said that that's the criticism that they got as well. Mm-hmm. But as he said, he's like, you just move that little dot over to the right about 10 minutes and then you just go.
Right.
You're in control of how much of the podcast you listen to. It's a recording. Right. So,
and I don't mind criticism, is sometimes, it does. And this is a good example because, maybe I should work on this, but it comes across as, instead of, Hey, Cesar, I enjoy, obviously this person listens to the show, right? Enough to actually to notice that. So obviously they like it in some form, right? Yeah. So you could say, loving the show, that one episode, whatever, felt like it was too long. Maybe you want to consider, getting to the point faster, but I know that's totally fine. And I could choose to read it that way, right? And I think I did read it that way because I started changing things after getting feedback like that. But yeah, it's, again, too busy to care. It's like at the end, the only reason why I might be doing things wrong is because I'm doing things.
Yeah.
You can't make a mistake if you don't do anything. So true.
So yeah. Just those times when you're gonna rehash something that went wrong, right? You just I need to just say to myself, listen, I'm too busy for this. I'm not gonna play this over and over and over again. I have far more productive things that I can spend my time on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Number 5. Create a space between you and your response. And we talked about this more than once. I think we talked with Christopher Avery talked about this, and you talked about this. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, we talked about it last time with Christopher. We talked about in episode 101 with mindfulness and just being able to recognize that there's this tiny sliver of time between stimulus and response. And when you find that, you can find that space, that's when you're at choice. So that person cuts you off in traffic, right? As you're listening to this, of course. And there's some time there between when that happens and when you decide to honk your horn and wave at them. And you get to choose what to do with that in that sliver of time. So yeah, your initial response might be something not value added, right? That knee-jerk reaction, but you have some time. So, and even if you do it, like you have that reaction at first, you get to choose how long you stay angry as well. Right. And so it may not happen instantly that you may use that sliver of time to change. But as soon as you recognize, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to let this person who I don't even know and who doesn't know me control my physiological well-being, my heart rate, my nerves, my heart rate, my cortisol level, adrenaline. They're not in control of that. Right. So being able to create that space is key.
Yeah. This helps not just at work, but at home, with your family, with your spouse, right? Just take a breath, go for a walk, think about it, think about the other items that we talked about here. Stop worrying about what other people think. What's the story in their mind, Don't give your power away, question your beliefs. And before you know it, it's like, you know what, this is not such a big deal. They came from a good place. They're trying to do well too, they're just trying like I am, and then you come back to it and with that mindset of not such a big deal, and who knows, you may even reach out to this person and start a new chapter of that relationship based on how you choose to respond to criticism.
Yeah. Great.
This is good stuff. I know.
I know. I can't wait to use it now. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
I know.
That's good stuff.
I really like my own podcast, Traci.
I know. We're like that. We won't criticize each other.
No.
You're wonderful, Cesar.
Oh, you're just amazing.
Oh, wait. No, you told me I sucked. Remember?
That's right.
Okay, good.
Don't let that, I need to question my beliefs there, because you don't.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then we have the final point here, which is practice a growth mindset. And this is a topic that comes back over and over as well, with you and I here.
Yeah.
So how does that apply to criticism?
Well, people can go back if they want and listen to episode 102, where we talked a lot about mindset. And but criticism, to people who are in a fixed mindset, that, I mean, they can't help but take it personally, because when you're in a fixed mindset, you believe that you are what you do. Mm-hmm. And so when people don't like what you do, that obviously represents a deficiency or a defect in you, mm-hmm. in who you are, which is so not the truth. Right. When you're in a growth mindset, you do all the things we've just talked about. You don't necessarily take it personally. You look for something constructive. If you do feel a tinge of taking it personally, you just question, okay, what was I just thinking? Do I believe that they think I'm stupid, or do I believe that they have power over me, or what is it? Because it's just something that you did, probably, that people don't like. Mm-hmm. And so, if you believe that you're a human doing, you're going to take it personally. But if you've tapped into the fact that you're an actual human being that's unique, priceless, and irreplaceable, then you're already enough.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as not good enough. You're priceless.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's really what the growth mindset's about.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to add one more item here.
Nice.
One thing that really helps me, at least, with knowing how to parse, the criticism that I get, is basically knowing who I am, knowing where I'm going in life, and not only like physically but spiritually, and having a good footing on that level. So let's say I really know what I want when it comes to my career, right? I want to get to that, work for that company, or get to that position, or manage this type of project, right? Or at home, I really know what I want my family to look like. I want the values that we believe in as a family, and what we're working towards as a group of people who love each other, right? So when you think more about that, and you are more intentional about what you're doing, a good example is this podcast. I was kind of dismissive of that person who criticized me, and I kind of like poked him, like, wow, where's your podcast, right? Which was not nice. But in the end, what that harks back to is like, I want to do this, and I'm doing it, and I have the end in mind, and I know that I'm working towards that end. So when you know who you are and where you're going, and you get criticism that is not related to that, it's very easy for you to just dismiss it and not let it bother you, right? So let's say I'm, I don't know, let's say I like to go to church with my family on Sundays, right? And that's part of our values. Then if I get criticism about that, like, oh, church going, whatever, you're stupid, believe in God, this kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I can that doesn't affect me. Like, oh yeah, right. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, moving on, right?
Yeah.
And then, but if I get criticism about, let's say something at work, or something that, let's say I would really want to get that promotion, for example, right? And I'm working towards that, and somebody gives me feedback about how I'm going about that. Hey, you shouldn't do it this way or that way, but have you considered going it about this way? This is what I did, and it's how I got there. See, that's you can use that critical feedback, right? And still not let it affect you negatively, but you can use that as fuel. So if you know who you are, you know where you're going, you're taking steps toward that goal, and you're confident in who you are and what you're doing, then criticism, especially negative ones, it's really easy to either ignore it or use it to fuel yourself forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we even talked about that. We had an episode about creating your purpose,
Right.
which was not just about your doing purpose, but who do you want to be, right?
Yeah.
And just staying laser focused on that, because nobody can ever take that from you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what you were talking about. Hey, you're going to be the person that takes their family to church, and you're going to be the person that believes in this and treats your family and treats your coworkers a certain way, and so the criticism isn't going to hurt you when you know who you want to be and who you want to become.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's say you want to be a clown, right? Actually, it's a serious thing. I have friends who are clowns,
Yeah.
and then they go for they're at the park and they do some go-kart racing and they're really bad, and somebody tells them, hey, you're a terrible driver. You're just like, yeah, so what? I'm really into clowns. I don't want to be a race car driver.
Right.
So
right.
whatever, it doesn't apply to me because I know what I want. I know that was a weird example, but I think it illustrates it well, because the criticism doesn't apply to you. Yeah, I'm okay with you thinking that I don't drive well. It's fine,
Yep.
So
Exactly.
So all right. So let's recap here. Stop worrying about what other people think. 2, your story, right? Keep the story in people's minds that are not related to your own. 2, stop giving your power away. Then 3, question your beliefs. 4, be too busy to care. 5, create space between you and your response. 6, practice a growth mindset. And the little extra one that I added there, know your purpose.
7, know your purpose. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. I hope this is helpful. I mean, it was helpful for me. I feel like I exorcised a few demons here today with you, Traci.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I just really want people to know, and because it's something that changed my life, was that I was once told your worth as a human being isn't determined by what you do. Mm-hmm. And that was so contrary to what I had heard for most of my life. Because, right, we're graded from a very young age, or marked from a very young age on what we do. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of trained that that's what our worth is. But as I mentioned earlier, you're unique, you're priceless, you're irreplaceable, beautiful, just as you are, because you exist. And nobody can take that away. Nobody can take that intrinsic, infinite value as a human being away from you without your permission. So I just want to encourage people to stop giving criticizers permission to make them feel less than, because they are far more than.
That's beautiful. And I agree with you 100%. As usual, we agree on a lot of things.
That's why we work together, Cesar.
Okay, so you can find an outline of this list of 7 items on show notes for today's episode. You can go to pmforthemasses.com/111, and you'll be able to find a little bit of a blurb there of what we talked about here today. And in the comment box there, I'd love to hear from you an example of, how, criticism or negative feedback has impacted you. Even in a negative way, or maybe you can share with us an instance when you handled it well and it changed your life for the better. And if you think this episode was really terrible, leave a comment there too, and we can take it.
That's so true. Yes. Or if they have another way that they overcome criticism, let us know too, so we can.
We can
do that too.
The list.
Yeah.
Great one. So again, pmforthemasses.com/111. Nice and easy to remember. Traci, once again, what a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. This is always so much fun. I hope the listeners enjoyed as much as we do.
Right. I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
pmforthemasses.com